Okay, so let's talk about one of the options that I have, and that's if I'm not interested in tracking the data historically, I just want the changes to be reflected. How or what's the best way to go about that?
Right. Okay. So, like we said, at the end of the day, you will have most certainly to replicate the changes in your dimensions. So let's have a look again what you've got. So we are now back in the modeler, and we look at your employee dimension, right? So what you want to do is to actually have in your dimension a new consolidation. And you have to make sure whatever state, this after state, should be replicated here. Okay. So let's have a look. What do you need as source information? Okay. Let's go back to your data source. Right. So you've been using what we call a full hierarchy file, well, a structure, meaning you actually show each level of your consolidation in different columns, right? And you have been preparing something here which would reflect, okay, so that's the person we will change. So in the next file you've been preparing.
Yeah, there we see the changes in orange.
Okay, very good. So at the end of the day, what we will do here, we will actually take this file as a block and replicate that in your structure. Okay, so let's now go back to our session. Perfect. Let's go back to the integrator, and let's find out about your extract. So you are connecting to a file exactly where you've got the information. You are using an Excel connection and this extract Excel, right? So here you need to clearly specify which file or which range you need to know. You call it after update. Okay.
Was there a space there? Or?
It can be. Let's have a look. Okay, so let's save that. Well, test, we can just do a preview and see if the connection perfect. Okay. So what you see here is the same full hierarchy information that you find, and exactly this one. You actually have, or you bring now the changes with you with the source file. So because the structure of your file hasn't changed, you can reuse the process that you have created here. Meaning next stage, you actually go for this transform full hierarchy. That will not be changed because we still have the same structure. The only things that will change, obviously, is when you go to your last stage where you upload the file and you update your dimension. You really have to be careful about, which modus you actually take for the element, consolidation, and attribute.
Yeah. If in doubt, check the knowledge base from Jedox. You need to be careful depending on what you choose, as we're going to see.
Right. But like we said, at the end of the day, one thing that is in this case, quite easy, is the fact that you only want to replicate the structure. And you are not bringing any new element. Your base is the same. You still have the same number of employee. You are just changing the structure, the consolidation. So we will use this update approach. And in this case, we will actually, for both modes, say update. For element consolidation, we also use update. The same with the attribute, because we are changing one value of the attribute, we are changing the name of
Makes
this
sense.
person.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look and see what will happen. At this stage, what we should see, so we go back now to our modeler.
I already see a change.
Yeah, exactly.
So in junior, Veronica isn't there anymore?
Yeah. And if you actually move to senior, you actually have a new consolidation coming up. And what you have done, you have been actually moving this kind of element from one consolidation to the others. Let's have a look as well in terms of this page view or this report. Let's refresh that. That's what we had before. Exactly. So what you actually see here is that the data that has been stored in the cube is still there. You haven't lost any information at this stage. And we don't find Veronica under the junior section anymore, but if you actually open this senior consolidation, then you find her again. And obviously she actually, because we moved the element, all the information that was there before is still around. So all the 2017 information, the plan values, can be found at this stage here. So you haven't lost any data. But maybe one point that is important when we go with the update, you really have at this stage to be careful about what you actually bring with you. Let's have a look here in your scenario. At this stage, we actually just move one element, and if we actually are coming with a scenario with one of the person is getting out of the company, by doing this update approach,
they would be deleted and the data would be lost. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's maybe one last point maybe to remember with the update, because you don't capture any historical, you may end up actually losing information. So that's something just to have in mind when you do that. But otherwise, for bringing changes in your dimension, this update approach is quite straightforward. You just plug to new source and you replicate the information.
Okay, so that was easy. All I had to do was change my source data. In this case, it was because I wasn't worried about historical tracking, and update was the approach.
Exactly.
Okay, great. On the same page. So one of the other options you mentioned of handling what I would like to do is by using parallel hierarchies. You helped me prepare some of the data. Could you now walk me through the process?
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so just briefly, what are we trying to aim at exactly? I'm back on the modeler and I'm looking at the employee dimension. What you have prepared so far is a sort of before scenario where you've got a structure here reflected. What you used is obviously this file. It's your full hierarchy source data that you actually use. What we are aiming at is to actually, next to your before scenario, have your after scenario.
That way I can look at it historically, so before the change and then after.
Exactly.
Okay,
so you just grab on different hierarchy. And exactly, you did prepare something, because what is important, let's have a look at what you've got. So, right, okay. So what you've done is you actually created in this full hierarchy structure the changes and that you want to have next to your before. So that's your after information. Great. Very important, and you've got it very good. You actually give for every single consolidation a different name. So you actually add it after in most of the stages, which is a bit cumbersome, but it's actually quite good. Otherwise, the system may be a bit, it's actually quite good to have just a name which is slightly different. Great. So let's get this information now next to your parallel. Well, let's have this parallel hierarchy. So we will go back to your integrator. Obviously, we can reuse the process that you've got because the structure hasn't changed. So we don't have to get a new process. The only thing you may want to know is make sure that you actually grab the latest information. That would be your... Exactly.
Yeah, and so here we're in the extract, because there I can specify, okay, now you're going to be pulling the information from here.
Very good.
Okay, yeah.
So let's change that. Make sure you get the latest data. Have a quick check with your data preview. Perfect. So you are actually grabbing out your new or your parallel consolidation. It's all fine. So the tree is not going to change. We've got the same structure. Obviously, what we have to do here is just modify slightly the different consolidation modus, element modus.
Yeah, and I know in this case I don't want update because I don't want to delete everything.
Yes.
So I would, let me guess here, I'm going to put insert in all three.
Yes, you are getting that. So insert element, that's no problem. We could also add element. In our case, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, we have always the same base. You know, we didn't change the number of employee. Consolidation, you mentioned insert. The issue with this insert is that we will create this parallel hierarchy at the bottom, and insert will actually pick up the element and have them under your hierarchy underneath.
Okay, then I wouldn't be able to reference the old hierarchy in this case.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
The insert is really kind of moving element into the new structure, this after things. And that is not really what we are trying to do it.
Yeah.
But for that, we do have this insert parallel, which will allow us to have the same element in two different hierarchy.
Yeah, makes sense because, yeah, it's consolidation mode. We're talking about the consolidation of the elements within the hierarchy.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So, in terms of the attribute mode, we've seen that before anyway. You know, update has updated the name, and obviously we can also work with insert. We just want to have the new names there. So we'll just stick to insert parallel, and insert. Let's save it, run it, and see what will happen. Right, so first thing, it's already, let's have a look in the modeler, see what is a structure.
Ah, there's the new hierarchy.
Very good. So what you really see, that's the old one, like you had. You've got the three elements. That's the before situation. Which,
Yeah, and there we still have Veronica Wall. Her last name is still Jones, yeah?
Yeah, but that's the thing exactly. You're actually, by also changing your attribute, you have changed your attribute value here in both things. But what is important to look at is obviously, you know, let's have a look in your after situation. The training, and here you go. You do have your new section coming up.
Ah, yeah. Okay, yeah, now I see. Okay, yeah, so the attributes are updated. In this case, that's fine. Just good to know. If I'm going to be then inserting or whatever with the attribute mode. And yeah, now we see that she had been in both positions. Okay, yeah.
So if you now go to a report, let's have a look. Let's refresh this little report that you had. Right. At the moment, what we are seeing, we see the old situation, the before situation. We also realize that by this, this approach and inserting a new value for the name, we change the name. But let's also have a look if we can grab the new situation. So let's go back to our employee. Exactly. Now you have also the option. So let's have both of them available with the after. Right. And what you can see is in terms of values in the cube, by doing that, you have basically two perspectives. That's the before situation where you still have access to your value. And in the after, in terms of consolidation, now here you've got just for this grade, just for this department, the right consolidation. But you are able, for the years where the change didn't happen, to actually still refer to the old consolidation and structure.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.